Right. To start off with, very boringly, can I check where you are? I just have to have nearest city.
I'm in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Where are
So,
you? You're
I'm in London.
you're in London.
Yeah, still stuck here. It must have been nice to be there actually during lockdown because there's lots of like good weather and outside space.
Yeah, no, we're very lucky. I mean, with all the nice sort of hikes and being close to the sea and everything is a a treat.
How has it been? Has it been weird, like having this long period away from work? Because I know you're always busy and doing lots of things.
Yeah, I mean, like for everyone, I think it's been sort of a journey of, sort of shock and then adjusting and then shock again and then figuring out, how to stay motivated from home and everything. I mean, initially, I think for me, it was quite nice to have a bit of a rest, a bit of a break. And obviously that's not to take away anything from, the terrible things that have been happening to people and all the suffering that's going on. But, I was trying to embrace the time as a positive, something to learn from it, I suppose. And, as it goes on, then there's new challenges, obviously. But yeah, I've tried to be, sort of upbeat and creative as much as I can from home.
I have been very, very impressed with your paintings.
Oh,
Amazing.
thanks.
Really
Thanks.
amazing. I mean, is this something you've always done?
Um, it's so funny because, yeah, it was something that I really loved doing when I was, a teenager. And then I don't know, I just didn't seem to have time to, with everything in acting being so all consuming and busy, it wasn't something that I sort of found the headspace for, I suppose. So yeah, it's been lovely to rediscover that and just have a sort of artistic outlet, from home. That's nothing to do with acting. That's not about, the business. It's just a completely different, artistic expression.
I'm muting myself in between just in case
Oh,
kind of
that's
disappeared.
okay. I know. I heard a loud noise. I'm just going to close this.
Yeah, I thought there was something going on.
Let me just.
And the George Floyd and Brianna pictures in particular, I thought were amazing.
Oh, thanks. It's so funny because it's sort of the tip of the iceberg of what I've actually done. I haven't posted that many on Instagram, but obviously those are the ones that people have seen. So yeah.
Was that nice for you as well? Because obviously when you're painting someone, you are thinking about them. A way of kind of meditating about them, and I don't know whether how you're working.
Yeah, I mean, initially it started with friends and family that I wasn't able to see in quarantine, and I had pictures on my phone, and, it was a nice way for me to feel connected to them, and feel less isolated and, spend a few hours with a sort of smiley, familiar face and really look at them and connect with them in a different way that would be way too intense in real life to really stare at them for that long. And then, and what you get from that and things you notice about people. And I just found it very meditative and soothing. And then, when it came to George Floyd, really, I mean, that was just such a shocking and sad time and feeling somewhat powerless and, being at home and having been doing these paintings so regularly, it just seemed like the most natural thing for me as a way to process that. And obviously, even though I didn't know him or Breonna Taylor, that they were people that were in my thoughts, and I suppose I wanted to use it as a way to process the trauma of those events and also honor them in a way as a tribute to what they have come to symbolize in our culture.
I think they're gorgeous. They're so good, especially like Brianna's one. You can just see her. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you one more thing before I get completely into Summerland, because I've got loads and loads and loads of questions. I wanted to ask about the petition that you signed. Nisha sorted out a really good producers petition to try and get people.
You have to ask me which one it is, because I signed about 3 petitions. So.
Right. That's so good. I mean, the one I covered was the English one, which was producers and stuff, and it was talking about asking people to say, you know, yes to stories about different people, thinking but like outside the box when it comes to casting, and not being so like tokenistic when it comes to stories that aren't just about white people. So why was it important, and do you think these things will change? Do you think they'll make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just obvious. I know, like, you know, and I sort of think, you know, that's, you know, how you get more interesting stories, how you get more, you know, rich and, you know, nuanced storytelling that includes everyone. And so for me, it wasn't really, you know, I didn't hesitate, because I think, and I think, you know, you could say, oh, what does a petition actually do? But I think in a way, obviously, it holds people accountable. It starts a dialogue, I think, you know, if you have so many notable people in the industry saying this is what we expect and demand, you know, it requires a response from the institutions and the powers that be, and the people that make those decisions and hold those purse strings, you know. So I feel like, you know, it also raises the awareness. And as I say, once you've committed to those kind of practices in your storytelling or filmmaking or hiring practices, then, you know, you can't really go back. You can't unsee that, you know. And you know, and so you know, obviously it's a small thing, but it's sort of a commitment, I suppose, and I hopefully it inspires a commitment in other people too.
I thought it was brilliant. I met Nisha years ago, and I was just amazed at what she managed to do in such a short amount of time, and she was saying, yeah, it is about holding people accountable, which I think is very interesting. I might actually make a note of the date and see where we are, like a year on.
Yeah, I know, it will be very interesting. Yeah, well, in a year's time, in 2 years, I don't know if there was a specific time.
No, it was just like, now you need to start doing this now, kind of thing. But yes, yeah, just think it's interesting. Right, Summerland. So it turns out you and Jessica go way back.
Sorry, I'm just gonna like have to close something. I thought it wasn't gonna be a problem, but
yes, oh yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I think there's
no problem.
Some trucks going by, and I window open for a nice breeze, but it's not working. Okay.
Yeah, I've started shutting mine, and that's why I did the mute thing as well. Because like I've had ice cream trucks, sirens, all that kind of usual stuff. You don't think normally. So you and Jessica, you go way back.
Yes.
I hadn't realised this, but this is the first time you're properly working together.
Well, it's funny because we've worked together so many times. I mean, we met on our first job, my first job out of drama school, which was a open air production of As You Like It in Exeter, the Northcott of the Rougemont Gardens, sort of open air castle moat. And Jessica was just finishing Exeter University, and I just was finishing RADA. So she was assisting the director at the time. So that's where we first met and became great buddies. And then we've worked together. I mean, it's so funny. It's just been, God, nearly 15 years that we've known each other. And we have worked together on various things, you know, more in the theatre world, from play readings to, you know, smaller productions, or, you know, and I've supported her work. But the most notable thing I've probably done with her, finally 10 years after knowing her, was Nell Gwyn, which was at the Globe, which she wrote. She didn't direct that one, but so that was really, you know, an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience. And then Gemma Arterton did it, you know, in the West End afterwards. So it's sort of, you know, we're all connected, and Gemma was at RADA just after me, and, you know, so it's kind of funny, you know, when you feel your generation of women in the industry, and see everybody sort of rise, and then you get to reconnect, you know, as you go along. So yeah, and you know, Jess has just always had the most ferocious work ethic I've ever seen, you know, in terms of, you know, she has had her own theatre company in the past, you know, she's always writing and working on and directing and in the theatre. So to be able to be a part of her film debut as a writer director was really meaningful, because we have such a long friendship.
And all of you, you, Gemma and Jessica, all kind of make stories about women. Like you're very interested in kind of telling stories about like lots of different types of women and stuff like that. So how did you kind of connect with this story? I mean, obviously Jessica did it, so it was going to be brilliant, but you know, why was it something that you were like, yes, I'm on board?
I just thought it was so original, and I knew that, you know, it wasn't based on a book, it wasn't a sequel or a remake of anything. It's a completely original idea from Jess's imagination, which, you know, those are very rare things actually in the film world, you know, especially when it comes to period dramas, and we're always doing adaptations of things we've seen before 100 times. So for me, I just thought that was really refreshing, that it was a unique story to her and personal to her. And I just thought, you know, the essence of it, what it was about, you know, about sort of love transcending all these barriers of time and social expectations, and I just thought that there was sort of, it was really moving, and there was a, you know, a magic to it that was really uplifting and hopeful.
And what was it like working with Gemma? Because obviously, you know, I did interview Jessica the other day, and we were talking about how it is to have a love story between two women and not have it kind of overly sexualized. So there aren't the completely unnecessary sex scenes. You can just concentrate on the characters and the relationship. So what was it like kind of working with Gemma on that, and knowing that you didn't have to do some, you know, unnecessary seducing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really about the connection of these two souls, you know, and for me, what was interesting is obviously my character, you know, without giving too much away, but exists in a different time period for a lot of the film, and there was a freedom in that, and you know, even knowing that most of the film is through Gemma's character's perspective, there was a freedom in knowing that, you know, it's the roaring 20s, they were sort of joyous and sort of vivacious character, and that it was really about this connection that they had in a place in time that was also in Gemma's character's mind as well. So, you know, there's a freedom to sort of think, well, how much of that was, you know, the rose tinted memory, and how much of that are we relying on as actually how it was, you know, and that was always interesting, because it's, as I say, it's sort of from her perspective. So yeah, and I think I just trusted Jess, and I knew that, you know, she wanted, you know, there's lots of twists and turns and reveals in the story, so I knew that, as I say, the focus wasn't really, you know, anything to do with sex. The focus was much more about, you know, what it means to be a mother, and what it means to, you know, for love to endure over a period of time, and that stuff is so much more transcendent, I suppose, than anything, you know, sort of graphic, you know, that you, it just wasn't really part of that world, you know, and the world that Jess wanted to create.
And tell me about, was it your first time in Ramsgate, I hear?
Well, Eastbourne. We were most of my scenes were in Eastbourne, glorious Eastbourne, aka God's waiting room, as everybody kept telling me when we were there, which was kind of hilarious. I mean, it is kind of stuck in time. It's beautiful. It is beautiful, but you do feel like it's exactly the place to film a period drama, because there is a sort of element to it that is, you know, feels like another era even now. And but it was so refreshing to be out there on those cliffs, where the house was, Alice's house up there overlooking the Seven Sisters, those white cliffs, just so iconic. And and we filmed in some fascinating sort of country estates out there as well, for some of the party scenes, and driving around in these old vintage cars around these country lanes was just just really, really special. And it just felt so English. And as Jess often says, a sort of version of England that with folklore and all of that we've somewhat lost in our sort of modern world. So yeah, it was lovely to be sort of so in touch with nature and the tides, and really just being by the sea like that.
I honestly, I was watching it thinking, that's it. Why didn't I go and rent a cottage on a beach somewhere for the whole of lockdown?
I know. I mean, that would be the dream, wouldn't it? That would be the absolute dream.
A shop nearby though, otherwise, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It was so lovely. I quickly wanted to ask about the costumes because I thought they were absolutely gorgeous. I think they were made for you. Is that right?
Well, it was a mixture of things that were sort of, adapted and made and hired, these glorious costume houses. I mean, I went to the first costume fitting and pretty much saw this gold dress on the rack, and I was like, what's that? There are all these other things, and I was just like, no, hang on, which features quite prominently, and that sort of mustardy, yellowy, goldy color became quite a signature color for Vera, and in some ways Frank as well, the character Lucas Bond plays. So yeah, it was just such a fun period, and dealing with the 20s, as I say, and then later on in the 30s as well. Just I feel like being able to express Vera's energy through color in a way, because she's mostly in flashback, so her moments have to be vivid, so it was really fun to kind of play with those clothes and hats, and all the real vintage sort of sunglasses, even these circular sunglasses that really were from the 20s, which are very similar to ones I actually have now. They've obviously just come back around. So yeah, it was a really fun dress up character for sure.
You avoided most of the knitwear that Gemma got. Gemma got a lot of.
Oh yeah.
But I love it all. To be fair.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was it. It was sort of, the fun dresses, and then there was a fabulous red coat actually that I have at the end. And I was like, I feel like that just for that end scene, on the cliffs, the red coat feels, very iconic in my mind. So that's all we ever said really in the costume fitting was, let's be iconic. Let's just make everything feel iconic. So that was fun.
It works. It's really stunning. I just wanted to double check on other projects, because is Seacole now, is that completely wrapped?
I can't really talk about it at the moment, unfortunately. So yeah.
I saw something saying it was wrapped, and I got confused because obviously I spoke to you in March and it was in a different stage, I think. So
yeah.
And I just wondered, what have you kind of been watching or like listening to? Have you been watching anything you wouldn't? Because a lot of people have been experimenting and like watching like series they wouldn't kind of normally watch because you've got quite a lot of time, you can do stuff.
I mean, initially I didn't watch much. I was quite excited just to read more, and I often find I don't really have time to read novels, or I'm often just reading scripts or reading things a lot of factual things around work. So it's been nice to be able to read novels, and then I've been listening to a few more podcasts, which has been interesting, and I even recorded an audiobook. So I've been reading aloud, which is something I don't really do very often. Recorded an audiobook of Sense and Sensibility for Jane Austen. So that's something I wouldn't normally have time to read one of the classics like that aloud. So that's been really fun. And then what have I been watching? I mean, I've been watching a little bit of TV, and initially I could only watch 90s movies. things. I only wanted to watch like movies from my childhood that I knew how they ended, and there was just so much uncertainty in the world. I was like, I just want to watch things that feel familiar and comforting. But I've sort of branched out now, and I watched a couple of things. I loved Normal People. I think that everybody's been watching, and I watched a show called Unorthodox on Netflix, which I also loved. I just watched last night the first episode of Watchmen, which I don't know, I had been sort of so behind the times. I know that's been out for a while, but it just felt so eerily now for our times, with the themes and the masks and everything. I was like, wow, this is very prophetic. Who would have thought that, our world would be starting to look like this? But I've only seen the first episode so far, so we'll see. I'm not very good at sticking with things. Terrible, isn't it?
It's very funny watching stuff you've watched before, because that is basically what I've done. I have new stuff, but I've like been watching old series, like just
really.
Yeah. I I watched Grey's Anatomy. I watched House. I like went right back and watched them all the way through. I'm watching White Collar at the moment. I just find them comforting. They like solve a crime. The characters are nice. It's like,
well, I mean, I hate to say it, but pretty soon we probably will be having to just watch things we watched before, because like nothing's been finished yet, or everything's filming's halted, so everybody's going to have to be starting to like recycle the library, or on repeat kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see.
How's it looking with getting back to like work and filming anything? Or
no, I don't know. The goalposts keep shifting. So, we sometimes have a suggestion of an idea, and then I'm still here in LA. So, I don't know. I think, the virus keeps morphing here in the States, and so I think that's happening in real time. And people are being very cautious and want to do the right thing.
Finally, I've got to pick you up when you said you did the audiobook. Does that mean you had to make yourself a little tent out of a duvet?
Oh, yes. Well, it wasn't a duvet. I basically converted my closet into a recording booth, which was, one of my first early quarantine projects, which was quite fun, quite challenging technically for me, because, thinking about, I'd never done anything like that before from home, and I've done an audiobook, not even in a real professional studio. So, getting the gear and getting the right acoustic and hanging blankets from the walls and carpeting, the area, and, all of that was quite fun. And actually I found it a lovely sort of escapism, really, because, that was sort of all going on while there was a lot of protests, and quite scary times here in LA for certainly a few days, and and some of which I took part in, but early on, when things were a little bit more ragged, it was actually a really lovely escapism to know that I could go into my little booth of Jane Austen land, and and we'd have to stop for helicopters overhead, and it was kind of surreal, but there was something nice to know that I could kind of go into this very focused place and tell a story, and hopefully people will find some escapism, when they listen to it as well.
I love that, going into the cupboard to hide out in Jane Austen world.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's brilliant. Doesn't get any better than that. I think a lot of audiobooks must have gone up as well, with people like listening to things and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's also something you can do while you're doing other things. It's different. I think you take in stories differently, when you hear them as opposed to read them. I think it's just a different part of the brain, and yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely challenging for me, and she's a very smart lady, and a different style of delivery, which is very complex. So it was good to kind of get those muscles working again.
Amazing. Thank you very much for talking to me. That was all perfect. I loved Summerland. I thought it was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I ran out of time of talking to Jessica. I had so many more questions.
Oh,
she's brilliant, isn't she? She's really brilliant.
Yeah.
And I love the audiobook thing. I know
So funny. I feel like actors all over the place are, you know, really.
They have been. My friend spoke to someone the other day. He's like, "Yeah, I had a duvet up. I had to record a Dickens thing."
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, you know, needs must. We have to adapt. So it's amazing what you can do from home when you get creative.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
With you, because we talked about the paintings, would it
Hmm.
be okay if we ran some of your videos of you doing the paintings? Just
Like the time lapse? Yes, of course. You have those. I mean, I know that they're on my Instagram, but if you need a better quality version, because sometimes I know those things get reduced when you take them off other sites. I'm sure Flo can send you.
Amazing.
You know,
Okay, I'll double check. Yeah, we'll see what quality they are. But it's really nice just to, obviously we'll run all the Summerland stuff first, but it would be nice to do other features of what people have been getting up to and doing and that kind of stuff. So just nice to catch up as well.
Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy LA. It's horrible here today, so I'm incredibly jealous.
All right.
And
Thanks.
bye, Flo.
Bye. Thanks, Hillary.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.